Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is an update pertaining to DERICK Brown. She and Patrick Stallworth were found guilty of kidnap and murder of Camille McKinney, better known as Cupcake, out of Birmingham, Alabama. They lured the said girl child out of the Tom Brown housing development and took her to an apartment where they were staying and assaulted the child and eventually unalived the child and disposed of her in a dumpster. I'm going to bring you this said information, but before I get started, I want to give you an update pertaining to Toby Keith. He was a country singer. He has passed away at the age of 62, and Prince Harry has made his way to the UK to visit his father, King Charles, who has been diagnosed with cancer. When I get more updates to breaking news, I will bring you an update or post it to my community board. And prayers for our friends and family in California. Southern California is going to be receiving extensive rain. So let's pray for those said people there. There's a lot of flooding taking place in Southern California. So prayers to our neighbors in Southern California. ABC 3340 is the source. Hello, Lolo. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started, everybody.
Go, a 3-year-old girl was kidnapped and killed. One of 2 people charged in the crime, not yet cleared to stand trial. A court hearing this afternoon made it clear that DERICK Brown's trial will not start in early April. Good evening. I'm Pam Huff.
And I'm Ariel Bailey. Brown is charged with the capital murder, and she was back in a Jefferson County courtroom today for a status hearing in that case. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson was there. And Gracie, what did the judge rule today?
Muriel, the judge overseeing DERICK Brown's trial is setting the timetable back on the case. Brown, who was just transferred back to Jefferson County for today's hearing, will now head back to Tuscaloosa, where a mental evaluation must be completed. Under state law, if a person is diagnosed with an intellectual disability, the court would be barred from imposing a death sentence. The mental competency for DERICK Brown remains under review. Brown is charged with capital murder in the death of 3-year-old Camille Cupcake McKinney. Brown and her co-defendant Patrick Stallworth are already serving life sentences after being convicted on federal kidnapping charges in the case. It was after her federal trial ended that attorneys for DERICK Brown raised concern over her mental status. In July, Brown was ordered to undergo treatment for depression. It was determined Brown suffers from chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. Monday's hearing was to determine if the treatment had restored Brown's mental health, but the court learned instead a portion of that evaluation has not been completed. Brown must now complete an Atkins evaluation. These evaluations are required under state law for any inmate who is facing the death penalty. The judge told the court that he would not review any portion of the competency report until all sections have been completed. He estimates that Atkins evaluation takes 3 or 4 more weeks to complete. The court will review the competency reports at the next status hearing, now scheduled for April 22nd. Live in Birmingham, Gracie Johnson, ABC 3340 News.
All right, everybody. ABC 3340 is the news. Gonna go up to my community board and go to the next video, ABC 3340. The next video or comment is pertaining to her mental state. Is DERICK Brown mentally unfit to receive death penalty in Camille Cupcake McKinney murder? 3 votes, 100% says no. But the law says that the court cannot render the death penalty if the person has been found unfit. So let me read you what the Atkins review is about so you can get a better understanding. Hold on one second, everybody. So I got too much noise going on in the background. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. Oh, well. Okay. Sorry for the interruptions. In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court made a reversal pertaining to the claims of any persons committing a crime, dealing with mental evaluations and mental capacity. Anyone deemed to have a mental retardation, mental illness, it would be cruel to execute the said person under the Eighth Amendment. Okay? A reversal was done pertaining to this status. A man by the name of Daryl Atkins. It was Atkins versus state of Virginia. This man had 16 felony convictions, faced the death penalty for abduction, robbery, murder of an airman with a local military base. So the case, once again, is the Atkins versus Virginia. If you need verification of how this law came to be and why she fits under the criteria of that said law. Once again, the court says if the person has a diminished responsibility, mental illness, mental retardation, intoxication, or impaired condition at the time of the crime, death cannot be imposed against that person. So that even goes for if they were drunk, high, as you heard the young lady who stabbed the boyfriend and she was on marijuana. The judge gave her a slap on the wrist. That was his decision. Many will probably disagree, because many will probably say, well, marijuana, I mean, how intoxicated was she? Because usually marijuana is, deemed a downer, not an upper. So this is why I always say every case is different. Every case is determined either by a jury or a judge. What pleas are offered, so on and so forth. Is she mentally unstable? Does she have mental retardation, some type of post-traumatic stress disorder? That was mentioned, that she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. As I've told you, people who have, and those who have followed my content pertaining to Cupcake, this case, I brought you information with a sister coming up on the panel a few times to talk about her life, their lives, being raised by their mother who was a drug abuser. They had a very hard life growing up. The children were separated. They grew up in foster care. So they did not have the best life. Now, naturally, one cannot use it as an excuse to go out and exact harm once they are an adult or even a teenager. But it happens that many children who grew up in foster care, who have been severely abused by their parents, siblings, other children, so on and so forth, other people, that they have mental illness. Maybe nobody diagnosed them, and they go on to commit horrible crimes either as children or as adults. And as I told you in the live last night, watching her Instagram post a few years back, she seemed like she had something wrong with her. It was just the way she was talking to her child. It struck me as strange. The child was lying on her chest and she kept talking about the baby's eyes, and it just really struck me strange. What also I find interesting is her different appearances, as you're going to see in this next video that I'm going to play. I have a third one to play. She's wearing braids in court, which is strange. You're not even supposed to have hair, weave, wigs. So how does she get extensions to do braids? Then one photograph they have of her in a mug shot looks like her hair is shorter. So I can't tell if that's her natural hair or it was hair weave. And then in the video that I showed you just now, her hair is shorter, looked like it's been shaved on the sides. So who's doing their hair in jail and prison? Because this is very strange to me. I know that a lot of things are brought into the prison and the jails, but I've never heard of hair weave being brought into the jail. Now, we've seen when they go to court, do interviews, they usually get somebody to do their hair for court appearances, perhaps a little makeup, but extensions for braids, but she was wearing a jumpsuit. That's very odd to me. So I don't know what's going on with that. But let's get into this commentary here. The second video is by WVTM News. This is the biological mother of Camille McKinney. She's going to give you her opinion pertaining to what happened. Well, her opinion pertaining to the defendants, Patrick Stallworth and DERICK Brown. Please don't mind the commercial. I've got it on silent. Thank you for joining me. Oh, Lord, it's always something. All right, everybody, let's finish this. Well,
no level of punishment that equals the evil that Patrick Stallworth and DERICK Brown carried out against her 3-year-old daughter. For the last 1,237 days, April Thomas has lived a mother's worst nightmare. Her precious Cupcake was kidnapped from a birthday party and dumped in a trash bin. Patrick Stallworth and DERICK Brown were convicted of Camille McKinney's death. In your eyes, how evil are these two?
Yeah, abomination. Abomination to God, scum of the earth.
Today, Thomas showed up to witness Brown and Stallworth receive life sentences, while Stallworth's lawyer argued his client's role did not match the punishment.
As far as murder or killing the child, they don't have any evidence to show that Mr. Stallworth was involved in any of that.
Brown herself read a lengthy apology to McKinney's family. Brown said, "There is never going to be a day to go by that I will not feel regret. I hope that one day you will find it in your heart to forgive me." During an exclusive interview with us, Thomas said the guilty couple does not deserve her mercy.
They did something so brutal, evil. It's unforgivable what they did.
Stallworth and Brown now face capital murder charges in state court, which could carry the death penalty. Thomas is ready to continue her journey to justice.
I wouldn't care if it's rain, sleet, snow. I'm going to sit there because I deserve to know, and I deserve to see the folks who did what they did be punished.
And after today, she's relieved to know that at least they are no longer a threat to someone else's daughter. Now, Brown and Stallworth will not stay outside of a courtroom very long. In fact, they'll be in a courtroom in state court for arraignment in that capital murder case next Thursday. Live in Birmingham, John Papke, WBTM 13.
all right, everybody. So that's the latest developments pertaining to DERICK Brown. It's spelled DERICK Brown, but she forgot to put the A on it because that goes to show that she's not really all there. Now, what you have to decide is all there as far as illiteracy, all there incompetence to know right from wrong. That's the issue. She also lost her children to state's care. They went into the care of her aunt, last checking, and she was accused of child abuse of her own children. Allegations that she put one of the children in a washing machine. Do not know if the washing machine was on or off, with water, without water. Never got the 411 on that. Kidnapped the children from the aunt's house with a gun. Went on a high-speed chase with the children, crashed a car. Thankfully, none of the children were harmed. And then she caught that charge before catching the charge of kidnapping and drugging and unaliving Camille McKinney. Just a sad, sad tale of someone who obviously didn't need children. But that's the point. Maybe there is something wrong with her. Now, was she under the guise of Mr. Patrick Stallworth? I don't know. Was it her idea to go looking for children that day? I don't know. But my understanding is that they were out looking for children. That did come out in court. A young girl testified that they were approached by the two. Obviously, she recognized the two on that fateful day when they were out scouring the community looking for children to seduce with candy. The two girls took off running. They were nearby a school. So that was earlier in the afternoon around 12. Allegedly. So then later on in the night, they're at the Tom Brown development out looking for children and just so happened to pull into, I guess, a parking area of the property and found these small children out playing and decided to choose Cupcake as their prey victim. Very sad, sad, sad tale. Okay. going to make sure I've played everything. So I've played the mother speaking. I've also played her in court, ABC 3340. That's about the mental evaluation. This is something from a couple of months ago. This is where I was talking about the hair in the braids, which I thought was strange. 7 months ago. So I was trying to figure out where in the world could she have gotten hair extensions. It's very weird information. So I don't know. You learn a lot of crazy things when you get clips of people in jail, prison. But one thing I can say that's strange is odd, or maybe not really odd, but I noticed in the top video, she was looking very angrily at the cameras.
Trial of Derrick Brown just wrapping up. Brown receiving those charges in the death of Camille Cupcake McKinney back in 2019. WVTN 13's Maddie Davis is in Birmingham, where that hearing happened, with the latest developments.
Brown making an appearance here in court today. The judge ruling to commit her to the Department of Mental Health for further evaluation. Brown has been charged in state court with capital murder and faces a possible death penalty.
Very upset looking.
She pled not guilty by the reason of mental defect. After a preliminary forensic evaluation, a doctor recommended the court commit Brown for further evaluation and to restore her competency. Judge Alaric May ruling to follow the recommendation. Brown's trial for the murder of McKinney is still set for April of next year. She is set to stand trial along with her co-defendant, Patrick Stallworth. In Birmingham, I'm Maddie Davis, WVTN.
Okay, so that was 7 months ago. So everything is still the same. She has to complete this mental evaluation. The judge suspects it should take a couple of weeks to get the exam completed. I'll come back with an update to see where she stands with this mental evaluation. It's been a long time coming. As I was telling people in the chat last night, there was so much gossip with this case, so many innuendos, theories, storytelling, lies. You never knew what to believe. You never knew what to think of the parents. You never knew what to think of anyone's involvement. Because I always say that the street tells many tales. And some of it is, fabrication, lies, and then there's some truth to it. So going back, listening to some things here a few hours ago, it's interesting to go back in time. A lot of neglect was evident in this case. The child was neglected. That's the bottom line. I'm going to stand on that like I stand on every case I talk about, especially pertaining to children. I don't sugarcoat anything pertaining to children because they have to have a voice. And on that fateful evening, the little girl didn't have a voice, okay? Didn't have a voice. She was out playing with children all day. Testimony has come in through Facebook, whether you believe it or not, that the child was out all day, seen playing, running in and out of the home, using the restroom on herself, needing to use the bathroom, came out, clothes changed. So somebody changed her clothes. She got in the house at some point to change her clothes. A relative's apartment. It is believed to be April Thomas's cousin. So when you go back in time and rehash all that and go back, it's still traumatizing to know that a child was out just playing all day unattended. And there has to be some culpability, because let's just be truthful. Nobody has the right to touch you, put their hands on you, kidnap you, assault you, drug you. But when you are a child, things are totally different, because a child cannot defend himself or herself. There's no way you can assume, logically speaking, that a 3-year-old could defend herself. She's out there with small children. They're out playing, having fun. So number one, no one had the right to naturally accost the children, lure the children, but they're unattended. So there has to be some accountability from the mother, parents, or whoever had responsibility of the child that day. Whoever was supposed to be watching her, and I mean an adult, not another child. If she was left in the care of her brother to be outside with him solely, that's ridiculous, okay? That's ridiculous. You can't expect a child, 7, 8, or whatever, to watch a 3-year-old. Because naturally they're going to want to be out, have fun, do their own thing. They might want to run over here to somebody else's house or whatever, and they've forgotten all about their sister or brother. So it would be unfair to put the responsibility on a child to watch another child. We also heard that another toddler was playing with the little girl, which is allegedly supposed to be the cousin. This would be the child of the older cousin that would be, I guess, the first cousin of April. I don't know. But all of it to me was BS then. And even going back, listening to some videos, things I've done pertaining to this case, and going back, hearing a video this morning of the mother didn't want to give the child's name. One of the girls who was speaking on the audio was saying this is why a lot of the people were angry with her because she didn't want to give her name. I just was sitting there thinking just now, like, this is crazy to me. This is so crazy to me that even going back in time, it's still barbaric. The whole situation of leaving a child outside unattended and thinking nothing bad would happen to her. That's where I'm so confused at the behavior of the mother, the behavior of the cousin, the behavior of anybody that leaves their child unattended. And yes, some people may say, well, you know, these people did take the child. They didn't have any business taking the child. I already know that. I'm not saying what they did was right. But what I'm saying is somebody has to stand account and stand in the gap for the children, which are their parents. There are too many cases of children being abused, molested, essayed, and it's because the company that the parents keep. You know, a lot of people acting like this child was living on her own, like she was an adult. She may have had a older child's perception in life, attitude, disposition, but that's irrelevant. She was a child. And it makes no sense to put her in that place because that wasn't her place. And I do have a problem still to this day with the mother who just spoke. My feelings about her have not changed. They will never change. Because I felt like she was insensitive to what happened to her child. I felt like after the fact, she still didn't do due diligence, such as with the Wells. The MO to me is similar as well. The deflection. Getting other people to speak. Why would you use a relative to speak? How, you know, this bouncy house myth, which was so utterly disrespectful, and I do not believe it was truthful. Because the person who threw the party came forward and said, I did not invite the child or those children to this birthday party for my child. I had just moved to the development. I didn't even know the people there. I don't think that young lady lied. And it's just thinking of a baby just out wandering around. As I said to Evie last night on the live stream, she mentioned during the live that she has a 22-month-old grandchild. So as I said to her, well, would you let that 22-month-old just go outside and play and you just walk back in the house and shut the door? Even if you live in a house or an apartment. Some people may feel safe because they're in an apartment. They say, well, they're just outside the window. I can peep out the window. I can look out and see them. But that's just enough time for a perpetrator to come by and snatch your child, lure your child away. Because out of sight is what it is, out of sight. And out of sight is out of mind. Children have been lured away from properties. Children have been kidnapped from inside of a domain. Children have walked to perpetrators' homes, cars. So it can go a multitude of ways. But a housing development, this was a public housing development. I do not know the acreage, but just the tour I've seen by car from a video, it was a nice sized development. So you just think about how far the child was away from the actual door of the relative. You couldn't see the child, that's the point. And it's depressing just thinking a child's out playing with other children in the dark, unattended. And I don't understand how anybody could just sit here and act like that was no big deal. It is a big deal. It's a very big deal. 9 votes. Now it's gone down to 89% says, is she unfit? 11% not sure. Well, as I said, I don't know what DERICK has or doesn't have pertaining to a mental defect, but the fact that it was brought up and she's being evaluated, I would assume that they found something wrong with her. Somebody has come forward to say there's something wrong. Either she said it to her lawyers, or they have gotten medical reports from her background, her past, to see that she's had some mental issues, mental breakdowns, or maybe she has some type of mental disorders. I don't know. But I thought there was something wrong with her. Now, I'm not here to say she didn't know that what she did wasn't right. She had to know. She had to have known. But this is why there's a wrangling with this law, because that's what the issue is going to be. Okay, maybe she has some mental issues, but did she know right from wrong? That's going to be the point. Was her mental capacity diminished to where she did not know it was wrong to lure a child with candy, drug a child, suffocate a child, sexually assault a child, those were allegations, and then unalive the child? There's very harrowing details pertaining to Camille McKinney's case, because it's hard to believe that two people could conspire to do such heinous deeds to a child. As I was discussing this on the live last night, how do you get together with another human to say, hey, let's go do this to a child? Especially when a woman is involved, because you would assume, one, a woman would have more empathy for a child. She also had children herself. So then you have to process, well, did she ever do anything like this to her children? Any type of essay with her children? I did ask the sister that the last time we talked, and I do believe she said that there was some mention that possibly DERICK's own children were sexually assaulted. Do not know if that's true or not, and I would hope not. Because the one thing people don't want to focus on, I think, is that when children are sexually assaulted, they can grow up to be abusers themselves. Not always, but sometimes. Don't know the stats, because most people are never going to admit, oh yeah, by the way, I touch kids. I inappropriately touch kids. I desire kids. Who wants to tell that? Nobody. And nobody's going to ever tell you, yeah, I touched kids when I was a kid, because children are curious. And we know this from children playing with one another, but somebody has to say to the child once they find out that they have been touching other children, that's not appropriate. You can't do that. And children lead by example. They learn things that have been taught to them. So if a child has seen inappropriate behavior between children and adults and children, then they will mimic what they have seen. They will mimic what has been done to them. That's expected. And this is why when you find out that there's been inappropriate business with children, you need to rectify the problem ASAP. So once again, DERICK Brown has to have an Atkins evaluation. She's to appear in court in April of 2024 this year to see if she is qualified to or not to receive the death penalty. And as I told you before, this is a 2002 Supreme Court rendering where it was reversed, this Atkins versus Virginia, to give a person a chance to show proof in court that they are unqualified for the death penalty by diminished capacity, meaning they have a mental defect, mental retardation, mental illness, or was intoxicated by some agent at the time of the crime. So then we can bring that up as well, because drugs were found in the system of the little girl. Were these two, or her anyway, because the case is about her at this moment, was she under narcotics? So we go from mental defect, illness, to now, was she under the influence of narcotics, alcohol, any other type of drugs, while out scouring, looking, kidnapping the girl child? I'd have to go back and do research to find information if indeed DERICK Brown was under the influence of narcotics or any type of substance when she kidnapped the baby, because that will also play a role besides what is actually mentally wrong with her. It's a very sick situation. Very, very sick situation. Well, that's the latest I have on this development. When I get more information pertaining to DERICK Brown, I will give you this information. One thing I'm going to throw out, and this can either weigh on you or not, just depending on your interpretation. She changed her name because, she had a criminal background pertaining to, I guess, the kidnapping of the children and whatever else she had gotten herself into. And so she changed her name to this DERICK Brown. The interesting thing about this tale of the name change is that she meant to put an A on it, but she only spelled it DERICK Brown because that's not her real name. And that's something I think is interesting, is that the courts, even now with this case, years later, do not use her biological name. Because DERICK Brown is not her name. DERICK Brown is not her name. And it's interesting that she didn't put the A on. That shows me that she doesn't have common sense. She's illiterate. Somebody as old as she was at the time of the crime wouldn't know how to spell DERICK. It's just an A on to the name DERICK. But when you don't have common sense and you don't have literacy, you haven't had formal education, I don't even know how far she went in school, it shows that something was wrong with her then. Changing the name, you're going to change the name, but you don't even know how to spell the name that you changed. It's very strange to me. And this just goes to show you that something was wrong with her, I believe. Now, I'm not here to say she didn't know what she was doing, because I haven't had a chance to talk to her, listen to her conversations to see, what she knew and did not know. But maybe she is diminished. Maybe she does have a mental disorder or a plural. Maybe she didn't know right from wrong. I'm not here to say she didn't. But I also know that when people have a diminished capacity, maybe by state law, she is deemed, mentally, which that's not an appropriate word that we're supposed to use. But let's say she has a mental defect. Maybe she's could be easily coerced to do things. And we see people do this to people. They use them, they manipulate them, they give them drugs. And then you also have to remember she was mistreated as a child. Then she went into foster care. Who knows how she was treated in foster care? Maybe this formed her to be this demon, evil, as the biological mother calls him, evil, abomination. Because naturally what they did was wrong, horribly wrong. And there are no words for what they did to the child. I can't imagine what the child went through. Just the reading of the affidavit is enough to make you want to cry and throw up all at the same time. It's very, very scary. But as I said before, and as I said in my live stream last night, all these cases are eerily similar if you take notice to cases of child abuse, children missing, children found deceased. A lot of the similarities are the same, okay? There's always a form of neglect. There's always a form of physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and then the worst, being unalived. And some people may disagree in this case, but I beg to differ. Had somebody been watching the little girl, that little girl would be alive today. Now, it's not to say that child couldn't have found herself in some other nefarious situations, because she possibly could. Because what we have to tell ourselves, if you weren't watched that day, you probably weren't watched another day. So she could have easily ran out in the street and got hit by a car. Somebody could have ran over her playing in the parking lot. I'd gotten information that the child was unattended often. And I don't think that person was lying. I don't know them from a can of paint, but just from viewing the property itself, listening to how the mother carried herself, listening to the cousin coming forward to speak on what happened that day, and them lying about the child being in the jumpy house and all that type of nonsense, my better half told me this has gone on before. This isn't a one-time rodeo. The child has been neglected. She and the brother, they have played outside unattended, not just in this housing development where they did not live. They were just visiting for that day. They have probably played outside of their own house unattended. This was a wrecking ball, an accident waiting to happen. And that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand about children not being supervised. You leave your children out to be unsupervised, something bad can happen. 2, you drop your kids off somewhere and those people aren't watching the kids, something bad can happen. It's just common sense. So I can use deduction and say, with the severity of the crime, these 2 people out looking for a child to seduce, somebody's child was going to be a victim, even if it wasn't Camille. Let's go ahead and say that. Even if it wasn't her. Even if she had parents that cared to watch her, monitor her. I still believe something could have happened bad to this child because she didn't have proper rearing. And sadly, if it wasn't Camille that day, it was going to be somebody's child because they had already tried seducing 2 other young ladies, 2 young girls, that day. So it's a catch-22. You damned if you do, you damned if you don't. And that's what's wrong with the world right now. People don't care enough about their children. When you see how they act, how they talk to their kids, all you can do is sit back and say, well, why am I shocked that happened? Because nobody should even be thinking anything bad's going to happen to a kid. But when parents show they don't care, they're negligent, you should already know the latter is going to happen. It's going to happen one day, whether it be today or 5 years from now. And my message to anybody with small children or even school-age children, they could be 8, they could be 12. You have to know where your children are, number one. You have to check on your children. You have to know something about the people who you're leaving your children with. You also have to know and learn the people who you bring around your children. It's all the same. But I definitely don't recommend leaving a 3-year-old outside, period. It's not even safe to leave a 3-year-old outside in your own yard because anything can happen. A dog could get loose, run across the lawn, attack your kid. You're in there talking on the phone, cooking, taking a bath, whatever you're doing. Then you come out, God forbid you see a very heinous situation. Because that's all it takes is a split second to turn your back. Somebody could lure your child away from the yard. Somebody could walk up on the yard, pretend to be lost, looking for a dog, a puppy. That is a ruse that pedophiles and predators use. Hey, have you seen this little dog? I lost my dog. Oh, I'm looking for my daughter. She was supposed to be coming over here or over there. And children will speak. You know, some will talk to strangers. Depends on how you raise your children. And then the flip side of that is a child will go with a stranger because you heard the father in this case saying his child wasn't that type of child. Well, we saw the video. The children did follow the strangers. So that was not true. That is another myth. What my child would not do. Never say what your child would not do. Because in the end, it is a child. And if a child is seduced with candy, toys, games, they will fall for it. Why wouldn't they? Because in the end, they're just children. That's my update pertaining to DERICK Brown. I want to thank you all for joining me. I may be back a little bit later or tomorrow with more stimulating content and updates. Please check the polls on my community page. I'm going to check this poll one more time pertaining to DERICK Brown. If you all feel like she is unfit, and it's still now standing at 89%, that is she unfit to receive the death penalty? 89% of you say no, 11% not sure. So basically, most of you feel like she knew right from wrong. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below. Take the polls on my community page. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful week. Check this community page periodically for updates, news information. Once again, prayers for our friends in California. There is flooding, heavy rains. Prince Harry has made it to the UK to see his father, who is being diagnosed with cancer, King Charles. And it also has an update here from people saying he has no plans to reunite with his brother William, which I don't know if that's true, but that sounds pretty petty and sad. But don't know what their issues are. It is what it is. And Toby Keith, 62, country music singer, has passed away. Those are the latest updates I got before going live. Okay, everybody, I'm going to check out of here. I'll be back later. There's some other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about social media. I want to show you all a video, and then we're going to discuss it later on, maybe this evening when I get a little energy. How far is too far in posting on social media? And that goes for Facebook posts, animated content, practical jokes, talking about people, even what I do here, bringing you information, giving my opinion. How far is too far? What should we not be saying and doing on the internet? Twitter, X, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, IG, YouTube, and now this Threads business. It just doesn't stop. How far is too far? What should we not be posting? How about that? Because I think pulling out the phone has gotten a bit redundant. And some people do like to post a lot of content, like daily. They're not just, once a week posting something. They're posting stuff every time they open their eyes. So we have to question the motivation. Is it just copying other people because other people are doing it? Or this person just cannot, they have no impulse control to stop posting every thought, every picture, every live of the kids, of the grandkids, boyfriend, mama, what color shoes they wanted to wear. They're not feeling good today. Posting pictures of people in the hospital. We're going to talk about that a little later, because I think I need to get that content out and get your opinion on that said information. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $DeGanju129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome to the live stream. Have a wonderful afternoon. I will be back. Please check the movie of the week that's posted to the community board, and I will talk to you guys a little bit later. You've been listening to The Vault XL. Thank you.